Hi everyone and welcome to my latest tutorial where I'll be showing you my top 5 plugins for After Effects. Plugins are a great way of helping your workflow within After Effects. Some are more practical whereas others are a lot more fun to play with. So if you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, pop a comment down below and hit the subscribe button. Let's dive in and I'll show you my top 5 plugins for After Effects. Okay, kicking off my list today is Deep Glow, which is a fantastic plugin, really easy to use, and it makes your work look fantastic after you use it. I've been using it a lot in my projects recently, and I'm gonna jump straight in and show you how to use it. So I'm gonna start off with writing a piece of text in the middle of my screen. So I've pressed Command T to get my type tool up. I'm using Right Grotesque font, spatial black. So type Deep Glow. I'm just gonna fix the spacing of this, so putting my cursor in between the letters, holding down Alt and pressing the arrow button to add a little bit of space, and then going along one, I'm gonna do the same. Just to make the spaces look a bit more even, and you can just do this by eye. There we go, and I'm going to align this in the middle. And I'm gonna go over here to my effects and presets, and I'm gonna go down to Deep Glow. And I'm just going to drag and drop that on top, and immediately without doing anything you can see a really intense glow here. So I'm going to go up to my settings when I've got my layer selected, and the only ones I look at really, there's a lot of other effects here which I can go through, but the main ones here are your radius and your exposure. So your radius simply tells you how far the glow is going to reach outside of the object you've put it on. So I'm going to turn this down to say 200, and you can see immediately that glow reduce. And then the exposure, I'm going to bring that right down as well, so 0.4. And you can just see there that you can actually start to see the letters. So if I put that up to 1 again, you can see that the intensity grows. I'm just going to drop that back down to 0.4. And then I'm going to go down to style. So this one's quite cool because you can add some chromatic aberration to the object. And as soon as I've turned that on, you can see that you've got a slight bit of red and a slight bit of blue on either side. And you can turn that amount up. And I find it's not too overwhelming using this. There is just a slight amount to it and it can add to your final render. I'm going to turn that off for now. And you can go to tint as well, so you can tint the whole glow to whatever color you want. So that means that your object is white, but the glow behind it can be whatever color you want it to be. And then I'll just show you aspect ratio as well, so you can have the glow going in a certain angle. So if I just turn this up, you can see the height has reduced and it's gone from side to side. And if I turn on enable angle, I can change the angle of that glow as well. So you can move that around. So now I've shown you what it does to text. I'm going to show you what it does to images as well. I'm going over to my assets folder here, and I've brought this image in from Unsplash by a guy called Dario Muller, who's got some really cool images on there. I'll share a link in the description below for you to take a look at for yourself. And I'm actually going to, instead of just putting the glow straight onto this image, I'm going to show you what it looks like if I use a mask. So I'm going to create a square. And holding down shift, I'm going to create a perfect square, pop that in the middle, and that's going to be my border around the image. And you'll notice that I've got a bright color stroke and about 4 pixels. You can put that up if you want to like 6. And then I'm going to duplicate this by pressing Command D, and I'm going to turn the fill color on for this, so it's filled, and bring the stroke down to 0. And I'm going to move that down to above my image. And if you don't have track map here in your bar at the top, just go to the far right here, right click and go to columns, and then make sure you've got modes with a tick next to it there. So once that comes up, click the drop down box, go to alpha map shape layer 2, which is just saying mask within the shape layer above. So I can move this around without the square moving. Let's bring that down a tad. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to add an adjustment layer on the top of all of this. So go right click in your timeline, press new, go to adjustment layer, and that will go on top. And now I'm going to add my deep glow straight on top of that. And immediately you can see the difference. You've got the glow coming from the edge of the image, and you've also got the glow of the image itself. So I'm going to do the same as I did before. I'm just going to reduce the radius, bring down the exposure. There you go, and you've got this kind of cool sci-fi look to the image itself. Now I want to show you what the differences between deep glow and just the glow that comes with After Effects for you to see yourself. So I'm just going to turn this off on my adjustment layer for now. I'm going to go over to my effects and prefects, and I've already got glow typed in there. So I'm going to go down to stylize and glow, which you should all have in your After Effects. And immediately you can see the difference. So let's bring down the glow radius to say 4, and bring down the glow intensity as well. And you can just see a massive difference between the native glow that you have in your After Effects and deep glow. If I turn that off again and then turn deep glow on again, and it's just a much nicer, more realistic glow, especially on images. And the glow that is native to After Effects didn't even add a glow to the edge of our shape. And you can get deep glow for yourself for $39.95, or in English pounds, that's roughly £37.16. The link to where to purchase this is below if you want to have a look yourself. Moving on to the second plugin I want to talk about today, which is called Move Anchor Point. Now this one I use probably about 100 times every day when I'm working, and I recently updated to the latest After Effects and I couldn't get it on my system for a while, and I really noticed not having it. This one's super cheap. It comes in at $4.99 or £3.71 in English pounds. It's super useful. There's nothing too complex about it. I'll run through really quickly. It does basically what it says on the tin, and it moves the anchor point on your layer, which is really useful and definitely something you should be doing the moment that your layer is created, because when you go down the line and you've added position keyframes, and then you might decide that you want to rotate that object around the middle point, it's a lot more difficult to then move your anchor point later on. So I'm going to put a bit of text in the middle, so Command T to get my type tool up. I'm going to type anchor point. Great, so I've written this piece of text. So as you can see, the anchor point is below the text over here. So I go over to my Move Anchor Point window, which is over here in my display, but you can obviously move yours wherever you want to. And you simply just press the middle button there, or if you want to move it at the top or on the side or at the bottom or wherever you want to move the point. Now, as I was saying, it's a lot better to move your anchor point using this rather than trying to move it later on when you've got position keyframes. So let's say I've put a position keyframe at the front here, move it down to the bottom and then back up again. Let's say I wanted to move my anchor point whilst I've got those keyframes. So I'm going to press Y and I'm going to move it. Now, as you can see here, it's actually creating a new keyframe because I'm moving the anchor point. But if I was to use this plugin and I move it there, it just moves the whole thing rather than creating a new keyframe and just moving that one point. Super simple plugin, but super useful. Now, it's probably important for me to say here, because people have mentioned it before when I've mentioned this plugin, about Motion 3, which is a plugin that you can use to move your anchor point among a lot of other things. The big difference here is that the Motion 3 plugin is $65 because it has a lot of other features, whereas this is only $4.99. Now, I don't personally have this plugin, but it does cover a lot of other tools, including a lot of things to do with keyframes. So if you're not too confident with keyframes, then you can take a look at this plugin and it will help you with that, with sort of easing in and out, among other things. Next on my list is Ray Dynamic Color. This one is super useful if you're doing any sort of brand work for a company that have, sent you brand guidelines through and have a series of colors that they want you to use for your project. I'll jump straight in and I'll show you how to use it. So I'm going to create, say, 3 different colors on here. So let's get a box and put the fill color to that green, and then I'm going to create a box there, and then I'm going to create another box with a different color. Let's say this blue, and then create one last box with this pink. Okay, so selecting these 3 colors, I'm going to go over to my Ray Dynamic window over here, and I'm going to press plus. So it says please name the palette, so I'm going to put Georgiana and hit OK. Okay, so immediately over here you would see that these three colours have appeared in my colour palette for Georgiana. So once I click this edit button, it'll actually take me to this composition, which is a blank composition apart from the three colours that I have in there. You'll also find this composition at the bottom of your working composition. It will be turned off and locked, and it will say Ray and then the name of your colour palette that you've created. So if I jump back into this composition, let's say that I've accidentally put the wrong colour into here. I click there and I can put the hex code in, or I can change it or whatever, and it will change on here. And then when I go back to my file, it will also change on here. What that means is that you can have, say, 3 or 4 different videos, and say the client come back and say, actually that green isn't quite right. If you've used this colour palette, all you need to do is change your colour palette in this main composition to a different colour, and it will automatically update on all the layers that you've added that green to. So let's say I want this pink to be that green. I select the layer, go to my colour palette, and I just click the green colour, and it will automatically change. And you would have noticed there that the green wasn't updated. If your colour palette here isn't updated, you just need to press the rescan button here and it will update it. So let's say we want to change the colour of our stroke. So I'm just going to add a stroke to this box here. So let's say 10 pixels. And I'm going to go over to this button. So this button here, when you've got the inner square and the outer square filled, it means that you're going to change the colour for both the fill and the stroke. Let's say you just want to change the fill to one colour. If you click it, the inner square will be filled. So that means you're just changing the fill. So if I click the blue, it's changed just the fill. If I click this button again, just the outer square is filled. So if I press the pink, it's going to change the stroke on the outside to pink. And if I click it again, it's going to change both the fill and the stroke. Cool, and now I have that set up. If I want to change my move anchor point text in my other composition to this pink, I just highlight that layer and change it to the pink. And then I can go back to my color composition here, highlight the layer, go to the pink, and let's say we want to change that to red. Click OK, click the rescan button, and I can go back to this composition. You can see that this stroke is gone to red. Go to move anchor point and this has gone to red. So it's super useful when you're doing big projects and you've got multiple compositions going at once and you're using a lot of different colors. This way you can change them just in one comp and they will change across all of your videos. This plugin comes in at $29.99, which is roughly £22.32. And again, you'll find the link below in my description. Okay, and on to the next plugin called Retro Dither. Now, I found this plugin a few months ago after seeing the bitmap trend across Instagram. And a lot of the content I was seeing was still imagery, and I wanted to see if there was a version for video. And that's where I found this plugin. So I found this piece of footage on pixels.com, which I'll leave a link to below, and it's by Shvets Production. So I'm just going to extend this image and make my screen whole. So I'm just going to press play so you can see what this video looks like without any of the effects on. And then I'm going to go to my effects and presets and type in retro, and I've got Retro Dither come up here. So I'm going to drag and drop that onto my layer, and immediately you'll see a change in the footage. So the option that is on here is palette 1-bit, and it gives you this kind of monochrome, two-tone look to the video itself. So if I press play, you can see that instantly you've got quite a cool look to this video. But we're going to push it further. So if you go to palette, you've got all these different options here, but for the kind of bitmap look that I was looking for, I tend to stick to 1-bit, but I'll show you what the different options look like. So you've got these color adaptive options that basically are sort of 8 color or 16 or 13 colors, and the higher up you get, the more defined it becomes. It kind of makes it look a bit like a GIF if you were to export it as a GIF. And then you have all these other options down here that you can take a look at, which also have some cool look and feels to them. But I'm going to stick to 1-bit. And then I'm going to go down to dithering, and again there's all these different options here that you can use to create this kind of weird bitmappy kind of look and feel, but I'm going to go down to buyer, and I actually like the 8x8 option. And if I zoom in to this video, you start to see the little bitmap squares and shapes across the image itself. I'm going to go back up here, and you can also downscale this. So if you want to do it ×2 or 6, and you start to see that the resolution becomes really blocky, and then it starts to just look a bit like an old style game, but then you get this kind of cool movement. So if you're not looking to see what the actual footage is and you want to obscure it in some way, then this is quite a cool way of doing it. But I'm going to press none for this. And then you've got your threshold, so you can push your threshold up and then it starts to see more of the image, or you can push it down and it can see less of the image. I'm going to do something like that. And if I press play, you've now got a bitmap video with not too much effort put into it, and it's taking roughly a few minutes to get to this stage. And this plugin comes in at $49.99, which is roughly £37.20. Again, the link to this will be below. And for the last plugin today, I'm going to be showing you how to use AutoFill. It's a great plugin for automatically creating a filling animation for your shape or image. And today I'm going to show you how to use it using my logo. So I'm going to drag and drop my logo into my composition and reduce the size of it. So I'm going to bring it right down into the middle, and then I'm going to find the AutoFill plugin in my effects and presets panel, drag and drop that onto my logo. And immediately you'll see that it's turned grey apart from this little section here. So I'm quite far along in the timeline, and it just means that that's animated in already. So if I click autofill in my effects control up here, you'll notice that where that white mark was is a little position marker here. So if I was to move that around, that white dot moves around. If I hit play, it animates from that position pointer there. So if I drag that along to different points, that's my starting points for my animation. Now let's say I wanted to create this animation with several different points. I can come up here to my effects control and I can change my point count. So I can make that 5, and I can move these around. So let's say I want one starting there, I want one starting there at the start, one at the end, and if I move that over, one starting here. Now once I've set that up, I actually want to up my speed. So it's currently on 5, which is super slow, but I want to make it 50. And I also want to drop my border strength to about 10%. Now the reason I'm doing that is because my logo has gaps in it. If I was to keep it at 100%, it would only animate to the point before it reaches an end to that letter. So essentially each letter would be animated, but there's only 5 points, so there's not enough to go around. There is another setting you can use to animate more points, but this way it animates across all of them, and I'll show you what I mean. And before I show you how the animation has turned out, I'm actually going to turn off preview input, and immediately that grey logo has disappeared. So this is just what the final output will look like. And already you've got a really cool animation animating in the letters in a more interesting way than just bouncing in or revealing from the bottom. You can also create a speed map to make the animation even more slick. And with the updated plugin, you can choose the auto mode and the map softness, so you can adjust these settings to make the animation a bit more interesting. And you can also create your own custom speed map. There is a great tutorial out there that AutoFill have created themselves that go through all the different settings. So if you're interested in the plugin, take a look at that for sure. Cool, and that's my top 5 plugins for After Effects. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, pop a comment below, and make sure you hit the subscribe button. So until next time, take care.